Council meetings stream live on Facebook and YouTube and online at goodyearaz.gov. Thank you for your participation in tonight's meeting.
I'd like to call the meeting to order, December 4th, 2020. Please join Vice Mayor Stipp in the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, we come together for this final City Council meeting of 2020. And despite the troubles that this year has brought to us personally, to our city, our state, our nation, and the world, we are reminded to give thanks for the many blessings that you have continued to pour over us. We rejoice in our strength received through you to continue serving the residents of this great city, serving our strong and fearless city employees and our region. We pray that you will protect and guide us both tonight and in 2021. We have hope for the future because your spirit makes us strong in faith and your grace reminds us to work together with those with whom which we disagree, and your mercy is never ending. Tonight, we ask for your merciful guiding hand as we conduct our business of making Goodyear a great place to live, play, work, and visit. We ask that you lead us now in lives of service and obedience to fulfill your will. We pray that you will protect the men and the women serving our city, our state, and our nation, both here and abroad. Guide and protect them as they protect us. And finally, we pray that our hearts will be fixed on the true joy that is found in this season. And we ask for your continued blessings over the holiday celebrations of Hanukkah, Christmas, and Kwanzaa. May your peace and love fill the world now and in the new year. Amen.
Well, Council Vice Mayor Stipp, that was an award-winning prayer. And I can't imagine God is not listening to that one. So I really appreciate that. So you just keep that up, okay? All right, so everyone is present, and we have audience. So everybody better appreciate that tonight. So now is the time. Our city clerk will address the city council on. Are you going to do also online tonight at all? Tell them what to do.
Yes. Yes, I'm going to read the same thing.
Okay. So now's the time for citizens who'd like to address the city council on any non-agenda item within the jurisdiction of the city, Goodyear City Council. Any speaker cards?
Actually, the speaker card that we had received is going to be at the public hearing.
Go ahead and make that announcement first?
Okay.
Online, yeah.
So while the Goodyear City Council meetings are open to the public, the occupancy has been reduced to implement social distancing. Seating is generally available on a first-come basis, but meeting attendees will be cycled in and out if necessary to allow for speakers to speak on certain agenda items. If you wish to speak during a regular meeting, please complete a speaker's card so that we may ensure you are in the room for that item. Face masks are required and must be worn when moving throughout the building. Our residents still have several ways to address the council. They may submit their questions and comments to publiccomments@goodyearaz.gov, and during meetings, they can view the meeting using Facebook, YouTube, and the link from our agendas using Granicus. After the meetings are completed, they can also be viewed on YouTube. The public may always contact the mayor and council at any time by sending an email to gycouncil@goodyearaz.gov.
Thank you very much. Now is the time anybody would like to address it from the audience. Do we have any speaker cards?
Not for this section, but for
people here. Okay. All right. Well, let's start the consent agenda. Will City Clerk please read consent agenda items 1 through 8 by title only, please?
Number 1, approve the minutes. Number 2, recommend approval of a new Series 12 restaurant liquor license for Henry's Hawaiian Grill. Number 3, approve the intergovernmental agreement with the Phoenix Police Department to participate in the Arizona Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. Number 4, authorize the execution of 2 utility easements to Arizona Public Service Company required for development of well site 26, located southwest of Van Buren Street in Bullard Wash. Number 5, adopt resolution number 2020-2121, approving the One Arizona Opioid Settlement Memorandum of Understanding, further authorizing and directing the city manager or her designee and the city attorney, and providing for an effective date. Number 6, approve the termination and release of drainage easement adjacent to Litchfield Road, south of Western Avenue. Number 7, approval of issuance of temporary construction and access agreement for Goodyear Civic Square, Parcel B, Phase 2. Number 8, appoint Judge Sherry Rollison as Judge Pro Tempore of the Goodyear Municipal Court for fiscal year 2021.
Thank you. Does anyone in the council wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Councilman Campbell, do you want to? I'm sorry, Councilman Hampton.
I just had a comment, not a removal.
A removal?
Not a removal, just a comment.
Okay, which one?
No, yeah, I'm really appreciative of the number 3, the internet crimes against children. So if we can do anything more with that, or I do appreciate the IGA. So just wanted to highlight that as a great thing that we're doing, and if there's anything else we can do to further that task force, I would be open to that as well. So thank you.
So
just a comment. I wanted
comment.
Just
all right,
a comment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Looking for
not a removal.
What the reason was, but
Nope.
That's fine. All right, so I think we're all ready to do that motion. Could I have a motion a second to approve items 1 through 8? Do I hear that motion?
So move.
Second.
I heard a motion from Council Campbell and a second from Councilman Hampton. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Stipp?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Hampton?
Aye.
Councilmember Kano?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
The motion carries.
All right, we're going to go on to our public hearings. There are 3 public hearings on the agenda. The first public hearing item is to consider a major general plan amendment for the Wagner area. I'm opening the public meetings. Senior Planner Alex Latency will be presenting. Alex?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. First item tonight is the Wagner Area Major General Plan Amendment. The property is located east of Bullard Avenue, south of Broadway Road. For context, it's just south of the Microsoft site, and just north of that is the Phoenix Goodyear Airport. It's right at the confluence of the Gila River and Agua Fria River. For a little extra context, just north on Bullard a little bit is this little industrial complex, which has a church, a gun shop, and a couple other businesses there as well. For additional context on the request tonight, you may remember in 2019, there was the Lakin General Plan Amendment. Originally, the Lakin property developers were interested in requesting an amendment, a rezone to single-family development. Applicants did work with staff and determined that this site was better suited for non-residential uses given the shift in location of the SR30 reliever alignment, as well as other site conditions. Taking a look at the current general plan, this is along the SR30 corridor. So the Lakin property, like I said, just west of the Wagner property tonight. You can see along the SR30 is all industrial and business and commerce until the Wagner piece, which is up for amendment tonight. The general plan amendment process, major general plan amendments only happen once a year. And as of this year, there's only one request, which is before you tonight. There's a 60-day review by other jurisdictions, which the city did not receive any feedback from other jurisdictions. There were 2 public hearings held by Planning and Zoning Commission. One was held off-site at City Hall, and the other was held December 2nd at Council Chambers. The request is for 430 acres, which does trigger a major general plan amendment. And the property is owned by Wagner. It owns the majority of the property, and then Pioneer owns this southeastern boundary, these couple parcels here. Like the Lakin property, there are existing and proposed site conditions that staff has found do not support the site as best fit for residential uses. So it's a little hard to see, but in this blue dashed line is the SR30 reliever alignment. The intention of the SR30 is to reduce commuter traffic on I-10, and at full build-out, the SR30 runs along the Phoenix's industrial and warehouse district, which allows significant truck traffic to utilize this route. And then these red lines and their little KV poles represent an existing transmission line that runs through the property. And just a little screenshot of those towers. That transmission lines are up to 150 to 200 feet tall. And then, like I mentioned, at the confluence of the Agua Fria and Gila rivers, it does leave the property in a significant floodplain area. So the proposal tonight, as I mentioned, this is the Wagner piece in red. The northern portion north of the SR30 is already designated as industrial, but since Wagner does own the rest of the property, we just included it for context. South of the property, south of the SR30 is the residential land use designation currently. In 2013 general plan, the general plan prior to this, the property was actually designated as industrial, and staff has not identified the reason why that was changed with the 2025 general plan amendment, or general plan update, excuse me. So changing the industrial land use will prevent a future rezoning of the property to residential, given the nature of the site. And a request for general plan land use amendment is setting the highest and best use of the property. So moving on to the current zoning of the property and all surrounding properties, all of the property within the boundary is currently zoned for agriculture. So any proposed development of the property that is not a permitted use in agricultural district will need to be rezoned. The industrial land use category of the general plan allows general commercial, light industrial, and general industrial zoning districts. So designating the property designating the proposed land use to industrial does not lock in any zoning district at this time. And to date, there have been no rezoning requests submitted for the property. At the time of any rezoning, staff would work out details of any requirements for design enhancements like El Rio, design guidelines, and any other specific area zoning requirements like height or setback or open space needs, especially given the adjacency to the two rivers. And then to the surrounding, the property to the west, this immediate corner to the north are currently zoned general industrial, and then this piece north is zoned light industrial. To the east is Avondale and county property, which also includes the Agua Fria River, and Avondale's general plan does designate this area to the east as industrial, except for the river, which is designated for open space, like the city's general plan. This Google aerial is just another general overview of the site, so you can see a little bit of a clearer image, the confluence of the two rivers, and then just the existing landscape of the site. The major justification, like I mentioned, is the compatibility of the land. And to recap, the SR30 reliever freeway is planned to traverse the property. Existing power lines are not conducive to residential development, and the area is in a floodplain, and the surrounding properties are already zoned for industrial. Staff did receive one email in opposition to the request, and then the property owner of that corner piece that was zoned I2, he is in support of the request. He did attend the first public planning and zoning public hearing back in October, I believe. And he did give me a call today to just reiterate his support for the request. He actually would have been a part of this amendment, but got a little confused. So he did, like I said, reiterate support. On December 2nd, the Planning and Zoning Commission heard the item and recommended approval unanimously, and no one from the public was in attendance or spoke in opposition of the request. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I see the applicant is represented by Ed Bull. Would he like to speak? Excuse me.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Ed Bull, 1850 North Central. I'm happy to make a presentation if you want. I suspect the council may not need a presentation. If you do, please tell me. If you don't, that chair back there is really comfortable, and I'll be happy to go back to it.
Thank you for coming up, but I have an idea that presentation was pretty clear, so I think council's all right. Yes, but thank you for coming to the table.
My pleasure.
You're welcome. All righty. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Okay, so we're going on. Then I'm going to close the public hearing. Will the city clerk please read resolution number 2020-2111 by title only, please?
Adopt resolution number 2020-2111 approving a major amendment to the Goodyear 2025 general plan to amend the land use designation of approximately 430 acres generally located south of Broadway Road and north of the Gila River between Bullard Avenue and Litchfield Road from traditional neighborhood to industrial, and to realign the SR 30 to its currently approved location, requiring amendment to figure 5.7 growth areas map and figure 8.1 land use and transportation plan map in Chapter 8 of the General Plan of Goodyear 2025 General Plan, providing direction and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Can I have a motion, a second, to approve resolution 2020-2111? Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
Second.
I've heard a motion from Councilman Kano and a second from Councilman Vazillo. Open for council discussion. Councilman Hampton.
I just had a quick question around, I'm sure I think you can clarify. I think you said it in the presentation, but I just wanted to clarify. So you said the El Rio overlay is included on this, correct?
Mayor, Councilmember Hampton, it is not included in any of the requirements currently. If a rezoning were to take place, a rezone would create the design that applies to the property. So this is just to change the land use in the general plan.
Okay, so any height and restrictions in future, if El Rio does come to fruition, we could still, it could be used as an amenity down there potentially. So.
That's correct.
Okay, and I think I saw part of it was in a floodplain, it looked like, along the Agua Fria, at that property in the corner as
Yes.
well. Okay, and then I know you said, I'm looking at the notes here again, there is an aggregate mining overlay, or this got rid of the aggregate mining?
This does not remove the aggregate mining overlay. It just changes the land use that's underneath the overlay.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Alex, can you go back to that one right there? By the letter A in Agua Fria, what right there? What is that?
This?
The dark spot?
All those dark spots there.
Vice Mayor Stipp, thank you. That is from previous mining uses.
So are those burrowed out? Are they? I'm familiar with gravel mining, so usually they fill up with water. Is that what that is?
Yes, essentially they're holes that have filled up with water since they're in the flood zone.
So that stuff will all need to be filled in
It'll need to be remediated if it were to be developed, yes.
at some point.
Yeah.
Okay. The other question that I had is regarding you said you had a comment from somebody who was in opposition to that. What was that regarding?
The comment was in favor of preserving industrial uses north of MC 85 and preserving the land between the river and MC 85 for non-industrial uses.
Okay. But in response to that, the staff report for this particular item goes into great detail to talk about the appropriateness of industrial. The evaluation criteria that was used for this particular site being switched over to industrial talks about how it's important to the city's economy when it comes to the general plan, health of population, strong economy, and sustainable environment. We talk about the need to create an appropriate jobs to housing ratio within the community to provide new opportunities for residents and to increase sales tax revenue. We talk about keeping, I'm not going to read them word for word, but basically the idea is we want to keep our residents working in our city.
What's the date? What's the date on that?
This is the staff report that was attached to the.
Oh, I didn't see it.
To this whole thing. So, you know, very, very well done. I mean, there's no question about it. But for the sake of the individual who said we should not allow any more industrial in this area, this is a well versed in why we should and why industrial isn't bad for this location or really anywhere in the city. And I think it was important that we address that. The staff report, everything is very, very well detailed. Clearly, if you go, and I'm not going to make you go through all the slides, but if you're watching this from home and you see those photos of the power lines and the SR30, the only thing that makes sense on this site is industrial. We should not put residential homes in this particular area. So with that, I'm going to be in support of it.
Any other questions? I think we're ready for a roll call vote.
Vice Mayor Stipp?
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Hampton?
Aye.
Councilmember Kano?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
The motion carries.
Well, let's go on to number 2. The next public hearing item is to consider a use permit for drive-through restaurant bozodonus at Parkway Village. Open the public hearing. Senior planner. I just promoted you. Senior planner Alex Latinsky.
Thank you, Mayor. Just waiting for my PowerPoint. My second item is for a bozodonus use permit request. So the location is the Parkway Village complex development located at the southwest corner of Roosevelt and Estrella Parkway. It's a vacant pad within the center. One of the few remaining. I think there's maybe 2 after this one. The conceptual site plan shown here is about 3,200 square feet. It's proposed to be split in half, so you can see this approximate line down the middle. So portion of it for bozodonus and another portion for speculative retail development. The bozodonus having the drive-through, which requires the use permit before you tonight. The amount of queuing does meet the city requirements. 150 feet is the minimum, and 163 feet is required or is provided. And the traffic study was approved by the city. The proposed use permit does not impact any public streets. And the traffic study does contemplate internal traffic patterns based on a time of day study and time of day patterns based on the use. It does not anticipate negative traffic impacts given the adjacent retail users. So these are the proposed elevations. On this next slide, you can see this is the main entry, so south facing. There's the Bosa side and then the future retail side. This is the building to the west, which used the initial kind of design of the center, and then a little bit more modernized is the Suki's retail that's just directly to the east. Very similar colors and patterns, just a little bit more modernized. Like I said, staff has found that the use permit does meet the requirements of the city zoning ordinance, civil and traffic engineering standards. There was one property owner who was in attendance. He owns the property just east of bozodonus site. He's also part of the Property Owners Association, and I believe he's here to speak tonight. He does have concerns about traffic and the drive-through queuing. So I will let him speak for himself. But other than that, the Planning Commission did recommend approval with a 5-1 vote on December 2nd. And that concludes my presentation, and I believe the applicant is here
yes.
as well.
Mr. Johnson, is that the applicant?
I believe the property owner was coming.
I have on here Gary Johnson, so.
Yes, Gary Johnson is the architect. Might he be outside? Okay.
It doesn't.
Well, I can answer any questions that I can.
No, it's fine. Just if he wanted to speak, he had that opportunity. That's all it was. So, would anybody else in the audience like to speak?
Mayor, I do have a speaker card from Dan Silvetra.
All right. Please come forward. Yeah, you're limited to 3 minutes. Let me just tell you, the yellow light will let you know we have 20 seconds left. Speak your name and address before you speak. Thank you.
My name is Dan Silvera. I am a Goodyear resident. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I represent the Property Association of the owners for Parkway Village. Each of those buildings is privately owned, and we have an association that governs that center. Our concern with the proposal is the drive-through itself, not with bozodonus or any other retail operation. Could you pull up that slide for me that shows the concept? No, the one before that. That one. So where the drive-through exits into the main area, yep, right there, there is a stop sign right there on that corner. That is one of the main thoroughfares going east to west through the shopping center. That stop sign feeds into one of the main exits from the center up to Roosevelt, right there. That's the big intersection right across the street from Walmart. So that's a major intersection right there. There's no there's no traffic light, but there's the stop signs. Our concern for the association that they brought up is the congestion at the exit of the drive-through where that stop sign is for that thoroughfare. There's a lot of traffic there. I know the study has been done, but daily, if you could just see the amount of traffic that goes through that intersection, traffic does get backed up along the west to east route there, waiting for that stop sign, and then the other side of the center feeds into that section. So the board asked me to come. I'm not the only one that is opposed to it. It's all of the owners there. We would like an opportunity. This was not brought up to us as required by the owner prior to this. So the requirement of our operating agreement is that any concepts and stuff like that be brought up to us for approval prior to any kind of permits and stuff. This was not done. All that we're asking for is more time so that we can meet with the owner and the architect and look at this a little bit more in depth, see if we can maybe tweak this or figure out a better alternative or something to just try and mitigate that intersection there. That's just our concern, is the congestion of traffic.
So can we bring staff up to address some of this at this time or not?
Certainly, staff can address any questions you may have.
Yeah, I think, why don't we go through and we'll close the public hearing and during your time. Okay, I think that's the best thing to do. Get the motion in so that it gives council time. Okay, thank you very much for coming up. Greatly appreciated. Are there any other speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
All right, then I'm going to close the public hearing. Can I have a motion, a second, to approve the request for a convenient use drive-through restaurant subject to stipulations? Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
A second? I heard a motion from Councilman Campbell and a second for Vice Mayor Stipp. Okay, open for council discussion.
Mayor.
Now we could have staff come up and then.
I just wanted to make you guys aware, our city traffic engineer is available for questions as well.
Okay.
Oh, he's snuck in behind me.
All right. Do you have anything to say to start with, or do we need just questions? Brandon, go ahead. No, I asked that. He hasn't answered me. Do you have anything to a presentation a little bit on? Okay, then we'll go to question and answering. Brandon?
Yeah, I went to this location and I looked, and it is a very busy area. So I don't know. I mean, I'm okay. I mean, there's a lot of excitement around bozodonus, so we definitely want them here. So, but I wouldn't mind delaying or giving them more time to figure out the traffic patterns for the entire plaza to be successful. So whatever that looks like, but I'd love to see what they have around traffic studies because that road goes right across the street from Walmart. So people do transfer there. So it does get a little busier there as well. So I'm just curious what it's going to look like and what that's going to feel like because I want them to do really well. And I know there'll be a lot of like Dutch Brothers and other things. I mean, I know when I come out of that car wash, there's a stop sign right there too. And it can get kind of scary and backed up right there as well when there's cars coming right up to the stop sign and you're trying to come out and take a right turn or take a left turn out of that plaza as well. So I just want to make sure the center is going to be successful. And if we need any more time or to refigure or to figure out a better way to do it, then I'm not against BOSA, but I would like to see just the traffic concern addressed. So.
Any other questions? Councilman Campbell?
So I would appreciate it when you're showing this property that you give us some landmarks, exactly what you're talking about. Now, is this the road that goes straight in and you run into Saddle Mountain Brewery?
Yes, Councilmember Campbell, it is.
It is.
So,
okay. So the property that we're discussing would be to the left once you go into that shopping center, that vacant area up there.
If you're heading south and you see Saddle Mountain Brewery, it is directly to your left.
To the left. Okay.
Well, no, it's to my right when I'm coming out of the Walmart shopping center and crossing that street and going straight ahead, I would hit Saddle Mountain Brewery or the realty company. So
Saddle Mountain is here and the proposal is here.
Well, yeah, but if I'm coming in from Walmart up here and coming down, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, okay. So now I know where it is. I honestly do not think that it's going to be a traffic problem any more than that car wash. That car wash is a big problem because you've got a line of cars always waiting to get cleaned and waiting to vacuum, and it's a mess. But it's already in there. Frederico's has a drive-through. How can we tell him he can't have drive-through? There's already drive-throughs in that shopping center. And while that might be a very busy street, I was just there at 4 o'clock and there was nobody there. But, I mean, I don't know. There's no light there, that's true. And most people, when they leave Walmart, they don't leave from that back entrance because that's the entrance the trucks use to come into Walmart to unload. They normally use the one in the middle. I call it in the middle, but it's really not. But I don't know. So there's some kind of a ruling now that he has to go before these other property owners and ask permission to have a drive-through that has nothing to do with the city. I mean, I don't think that's a private rule.
Why don't you address that, would you?
Did we know that? Did he know that before he came before council?
Thank you. It's very common that in the CC&Rs of these private commercial developments that there is some kind of property owners association or design board that operates very similarly to an HOA that in their CC&Rs they would sign that they have to go for approval through those property owners association. The city is not a part of that process. And you know that property owners are notified of that when they receive those copies of those CC&Rs.
And did any of them come to planning and zoning or anything, or no one has come up and except for this gentleman?
Well, except for Dan.
Okay. Yikes.
Joe?
Just to follow what Katie mentioned, if we were to approve it and the association, you know, like I say, HOA says no, then what happens?
Thank you. Well, if they work out a compromise where there's just adding more design elements, as long, and I can't remember exactly what stipulation we put on this use permit, we typically require that the drive-through design remain consistent. So say, you know, the solution is, I don't know, adding a stop sign internally. I'm not saying that's what they're asking for.
Right.
They could possibly still do that and move forward as long as they're meeting all the stipulations of approval of the use permit. It could still move forward. as long as they're meeting all the stipulations of approval. Now, if they didn't, if they were at a standstill, and bozodonus at that time would have to decide what to do if they want to continue moving forward. There could possibly be an amendment needed to the use permit if the entire drive-through had to fundamentally shift or change.
But just to follow up on that, would it make sense to try to get that agreement prior to we discussing this? Because if we go ahead and prove it, the association can't come to agreement, then it's going to be a moot point, right? It just almost seems to me that because of that may be the logical choice first before, because if they can't come to an understanding, then whatever we're doing here is a moot point, right?
Yes, I almost hate to speak for the applicant. I'm not sure if the applicant was delayed, but they don't seem to be in attendance. I would rather defer to the applicant at this point as which course they would rather take their chances with that they can work this out through the design review board, or if they'd rather have a continuance. So it is difficult to speak for them on their behalf.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying logically, to me, it makes sense. If you're going to go to step 2, you want step 1 resolved before you get to step 2, because if step 1's not resolved, then step 2 is a moot point. If they have that authority over the like an HOA. So, that's all I'm saying there from my perspective.
Sherry? I agree with Councilmember Pizzillo on that, because I think that there's some issues. It's kind of like if it's like an HOA board type thing. If we approve something and they say no, then they're stopped in their tracks, and then do they have to come back for a different approval? I'd like to keep it as simple as possible for them, and it seems like what Councilmember Pizzillo's, it sounds very logical to me. If it's another stop sign or what their issues are, that road, I go to the next road to get in and out of Walmart and make a right and make a left. Mm-hmm. I do go back where the trucks are because there's no people. You don't have to worry about carts. But because that entrance is just not a good entrance. This whole center, honestly, the way it's been kind of put in there with the car wash, and then we have stop signs, and then there's a stop sign by the Panda, but it doesn't line up with the other stop signs. I mean, it's a mess. This whole shopping center all the way to Walmart is just kind of a mess. I don't want to add on to it. I want to make sure the businesses are successful. And I've seen where we've done really good with these drive-thrus with Dutch Bro, the new one over by the Safeway on Estrella. That one seems to run very smoothly. It doesn't back up. But then we have the other Dutch Bro that businesses complain that it backed up. I don't know, if bozodonus, if this is just going to be a really early line. Mostly, I would assume it'd be more like a Dunkin' Donuts type thing, and they wouldn't have that big coffee only crunch in the afternoon. So I'm thinking that's probably going to be helpful. But it seems like the center needs to have that discussion and then come to us. That would be what I would think, to see if there's, so that we have all the ducks in a row. I don't really see a problem with that. I don't know if maybe we need another stop sign there or exactly how to control that traffic, because I would hate for someone to be coming out of the BOSA, someone else speeding across those 4 lanes to get out of Walmart and get across, and then we have a little problem. So I think that might be the best course of action, would be just kind of take a break. I mean, it's and not too long. Just give them some time to discuss this so we can seem to get on the same page.
Mayor, council members, and I will have Mr. Silveira confirm this. The meeting with the board and the BOSA owner, I believe, is scheduled for Wednesday. So if it would please the council to continue the item. In past discussions with the architect, the property owner or bozodonus owner was anxious to get it moving forward by the end of the year, but delaying it another month may be the best option based on your conversation.
I have one more question though.
Okay. Go ahead.
My question is to Hugh. Are we going to, did we require a traffic study at all for this corner? And if so, what did we tell them? And if we didn't, do we need to do that?
Sure, Councilmember Campbell. I reviewed the traffic study and approved it back in July of 2020. And I can give you just a brief rundown of what the study showed. was, and keep in mind, it is a donut shop, so it's going to have heavier traffic in the morning versus the afternoon. But what it showed here in the study was it would generate 74 trips in the morning. So 37 in, 37 out, and that's in the AM peak hour. And in the afternoon, generated 36 total trips, so 18 in, 18 out. And the queuing, they also did a queuing analysis of the drive-through, and per the study, it estimated the longest length of the queue would be 50 feet. And that's what that's the findings of the traffic study, and that was what was approved by engineering.
Bill?
For clarification, and I'm not sure who to look at, so I'm going to try to do this. If we take action on this tonight, does that circumvent or do anything to the, I'm going to call it the H, or the Property Owners Association discussion on Wednesday? Are we the chicken or are we the egg? That's really what I'm asking.
Thank you. Again, that is more of a private item. The risk is if council were to approve it tonight and the Property Owners Association could not come to resolution with bozodonus, and that would change council's mind. And then, you know, if you guys said, well, maybe we should have either rejected the case or added a couple stipulations per what the Property Owners Association wanted. So it does remove your control. You know, well, you have the most control right now while it's in front of you.
No, I get that. Yeah. We also can do the most damage, too. I mean, realistically, to the business owner.
Yeah.
You know, by delaying this a month. If the stipulation is that the Property Owners Association has to approve the plan, that's a stipulation of the special use permit, then our approving the special use permit does not interfere with that. It basically puts it on the books and allows BOSA to meet with them on Wednesday, and if they say, yay, we're good with it, then this thing moves forward. If they say yes on Wednesday, we aren't seeing this again until middle of January.
Which is not good.
Which delays the property owner and that business owner a month, and I don't think anybody wants to see that. So I'm trying to get to, if we approve this tonight with the stipulation that it must be approved by the HOA, haven't we served that customer and then put the onus on them to work with the
I'm going to have the lawyer, because I said right now,
that's a generic question.
I got my ears on that because that's against the law. Go ahead.
Madam Mayor, members of council, I think that's a pragmatic approach, but I am concerned about the council delegating the regulatory authority in this.
To somebody else.
I think that there is a contract right between the private parties that is separate and distinct from our regulatory authority over the use permit. I hate to mix those two concepts into a council action. So it seems, I understand you're looking out for the property owner and trying to get to an expedient resolution, but I'm afraid that may muddy the waters a little bit on this one.
Okay, then my follow-up question to that is to the manager. Can we get this on the January 4 agenda if we table this tonight?
I don't
They're
see why
going
not.
to delay him till January 4th?
January 4th is our first council meeting of
I
2021.
know, but again, you're delaying, you know, the entire shopping center. I go there a lot because now I pick up food there once in a while. There are lines everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. This is not the only one. But what I do know is people stand in those lines. I sit in my car on those lines because if I want a donut, I'm going to stick there till I get my donut. If I want a cup of coffee, I'm going to stick there till I get the cup of coffee. Everybody that goes into that shopping center is aware
we have to wait.
It is too late to correct that whole shopping center. What is not too late is for the partnership of all the business to get together and try to come to some kind of resolve on this and share that. But they're all going to, I mean, the place is packed with people. I can't believe there's any business in there not doing well at this time. And if they aren't, maybe just people like to drive around the shopping center. I don't know, but it is mighty, mighty business there. Go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to add that it was inherent that adding new business is going to increase traffic in that intersection regardless if there is a drive-through or not. Is the queuing running behind the building? Okay, because we're seeing queuing a big issue, and so they won't be queuing out in the street. What it sounds like the issue is exiting the line after you get your donut and you come in, and you're not going to exit right at the entrance to the Walmart area, right? You exit down there. Okay, there's a drive-through in Avondale at the Habit, and it's very similar. You stop, and then it's an immediate right turn, and it works. I mean, you may take patience, but you can get out. And so, again, I think this particular intersection is going to be busy regardless, because you're going to fill in the businesses. And I agree, the whole shopping center structure probably needs to be looked at. It is busy, it's thriving. That's all good news. I go through there a lot, and I want to see it all be successful.
I think that's, if they didn't get enough traffic, and if it was really easy to get through, and they didn't get customers. So we have that same thing going on. Mm-hmm. We have other areas that don't get that traffic, okay? They would do anything to get that traffic. They'd even put up what you don't like, they'd put up to try to get that. So that's the dilemma of those kind of shopping centers. Mm-hmm. I just think you have to work out a teamwork. Talk to the whole team. They're part of your team, whether there's a stopping there or whatever, and have conversations, all of you, because together you could come up with something that's different, whether your signage, whether something could attach to the business itself. You could cross-advertise with each other with cards in your shop if it is a different shop, and so somebody could pick up something from the next door shop, and maybe it's something they want to do. So I think for us to get into this, if you do, council, I will bet that we'll have other businesses coming up to us that are already in there, and they'll want something changed or something done. The shopping center's been there a long time. The design is the design, and I don't think anybody has had a horrendous accident there, because it sounds like they're going not very fast. The lines don't allow them to. I just don't think postponing it is not fair to the developer that, is developing. I just think
I don't want to lose the business. I don't want him to go somewhere else.
Yeah, well, you would, but I'm telling you, people don't. They stand in line.
No. I don't want him to take Boston Donuts and go someplace else.
Oh, no, I don't. Well, up to this point, he's done everything right. Isn't that correct? Okay, and we said HOA, you, the lawyer, you divided HOAs up. You told them what their power is and what their entity is. Is that correct?
Well, Madam Mayor, as I understand what they're stating tonight is their CC&Rs require a design review before any modifications to a parcel. So it seems like they have some contract rights amongst the parties within the
HOA.
Within the property owners association.
Yeah, but
yes.
that takes us
out
of it.
I mean, that's what they've stated this evening, and that
probably
is true.
Yes, so
but
that takes us out of it to delay somebody that's made the application to open. So we're going to do that because of the association rules?
Well, you can look at it a couple of different ways, and I think as staff indicated earlier, certainly council can do whatever they would like to do tonight on these use permit, and they can approve it in its current status. What might happen is that the Property Owners Association meets next week and they make some tweaks to this design, which then would require the owner to come back through this process again. So I think that's why the suggestion was maybe a short delay might be more expedient for everyone in the long term. That might make some sense.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, Sherry.
And I think that's what, when Joe and I were saying that's the concern. We don't want them to have to come back, because if it changes, and then like you said, then they have to come back and redo this.
So
So,
they got to come back anyway now.
well, not necessarily, well, if we can do the 4th, it's over the holidays. There isn't going to be that much going on. I mean, they're not going to lose that much time. If we can get it on the 4th, they have their meeting on Wednesday. you know?
Is this open? When is it open? Oh, it's not in the construction stage. I thought it was.
Mhm.
All right.
Mayor, may I provide some additional context that might assist in your decision?
I see.
One thing is, you know, they can't move forward to the next step until they have site plan approval. The site plan is not yet ready to be approved.
Oh.
And with the holidays coming up, it isn't likely that it's going to be approved, in the next week. So delaying them to January 4th might not have quite the impact. They're not ready to submit their construction plans tomorrow because they still have to finish up some of the details of the site plan.
For you to give to us.
Yeah, we just conferred here.
I'm sitting
So
here thinking it's up, and okay.
So without the applicant being here to tell you which way to go, it may be the more conservative approach for the applicant to delay it to January 4th. But obviously it's your decision.
Bill?
Mayor, I'm ready to make a motion to table this until January 4th.
Do I hear a second?
I got a second.
All right. Do I do a roll call, or are we going to just, and all in favor?
All in favor.
All in favor?
Mhm.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
Shoot.
Okay.
Huh? We may not even see it then. Gosh.
The last public hearing items to consider rezoning from a PAD planned area development to an AG agriculture to a PAD planned area development for Innovation Center. Open to the public hearing. Municipal Planner Steve Karashi will present. Steve?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I do have a presentation for you tonight on the Innovation Center rezoning. And Mayor and Council, if you would please bear with me, as this is a large project with a lot of components. So I do have a detailed presentation for you tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, the property we're looking at tonight is 224 acres. This is I-10 Loop 303. General plan has this property as business and commerce land use. It also has a designation for I-10, the transit corridor here. And what generally that states is what they would like to see is high intensity and high employment uses on this 224 acres. And looking at context, again, this is the subject property right here. I-10 and the 303 kind of wrap around. We have canyon trails here to the east, the 303, and then this is the RID canal that runs the southern boundary of the property. And south of that is existing Cotton Lane RV mobile home park. Canyon trails to the south here. Future residential here, about 450 single-family homes. As we wrap around Van Buren and go up Citrus, future residential here, Las Palmas, about 750 homes. County area here, I-10, then we have future commercial, and then the state prison complex. So again, the property itself, the subject property here, it's a mix of zoning. We have a PAD over a portion of it, Cotton Lane RV, and that wraps from basically Van Buren north up to I-10. So you do have PAD over much of the property. And that was rezoned in 1996. And what that was generally was mobile home RV parks, about 1,500 units over that PAD. And right now it's really just this southern portion, south of RD to Van Buren, that's been developed, about 500, a little over 500 sites. No existing residential development north of the RID Canal. The rest of the property is zoned agricultural. And this exhibit's taken from the PAD, and this just shows you the development plan that was anticipated. You have the RV sites, golf course wrapping through. This was the grandstands for the Trotter Park before it was demolished. And so for the current request tonight, it's for a PAD for the 224 acres. So we'll take the ag and existing Cotton Lane RV PAD to a new PAD called Innovation Center. It'll be a mix of commercial and light industrial uses. And this exhibit here basically shows District A is commerce, and that is based on the I-1, so light industrial. That's the bulk of the request. It's about 62%. Next is B, and that's right here at Citrus and I-10. That's commercial, retail, entertainment. It's 26 acres, about 12% of the project total. Then this larger portion here, District C, as we go down Citrus Road and RID Canal, that's 59 acres for office employment uses, 26%. At this point, we have indication that District A, which is the light industrial, that there could be future development plans within District A for such things as warehousing and distribution. At this time, we do not have any development plans for District B or C, so no timelines for development of the commercial or employment uses. And a couple deviations requested with this PAD, building height, up to 150 feet within District A, and then a reduction to the landscape setback along the freeway frontage. And so with any rezoning requests, all the rezoning requests that come before council, there are 10 criteria that the zoning ordinance requires us to look at, and these are the 10 here. Through this presentation, I'll focus a little bit more on 1 and 3, so the general plan and the compatibility with the surrounding areas. But again, I'll go through a little quicker the rest of the evaluation criteria. So in looking at the first one, consistency with the general plan, and as noted in the staff report, we wanted to explain why we found the proposal inconsistent with the general plan. And in looking at some of the elements, what we have is I-10 as a transit corridor and growth area. And what we have is a unique property here situated at the freeway interchange, a large parcel of land that has high visibility, which is a gateway into the city as you're traveling east. I think everybody remembers the grandstand that was on the property and what an iconic feature it was and how visible it was. So this property does have a lot of visibility to it. The general plan designates it for high employment uses, things like office, entertainment, food and beverage, tourism, travel. It looks for a mix of uses. So you have all of that along with possibly some residential, a lot of mix of uses on this property. And again, those uses that can leverage the visibility and access provided due to its location here at the interchange of two freeways. What we do have, the general plan has, as everybody is familiar with how successful the city has been with warehousing and distribution, a prime location for that is the Loop 303 area here, just north of the subject property. This area, again, for the protection of Luke Air Force Base, to have a lower concentration of people, this is an area that the general plan highlights for warehousing and distribution type of uses. Other areas are around the Goodyear Airport, and again, down MC-85 and future freeway along here. And also the city had a market analysis done last year, and it looked at this property, and I'll go through that in a couple slides later here. And this is a map from the study. And basically the purpose of this exhibit is to show the areas in yellow are undeveloped industrial land through the city. And the purpose of this exhibit is to show that the city has an adequate supply of industrial land available for future development. It was almost close to 4,000 acres that were available. Criteria number 2. The main part of this criteria I wanted to bring forth to the council was the borrow pit. The rest of the property does appear suitable for development. The borrow pit is something that will need to be remediated prior to development. And that will occur with a special use permit. That will occur a later process after zoning. So at this time with this development, we have no benchmarks in the PAD for the filling of the pit. So there's no guarantees provided that it will be filled in any specific time period. Criteria number 3, another one that I probably want to focus on a little more. This is compatibility with the surrounding area. Again, we have general and business and commerce here, but surrounding the subject property, we have neighborhoods designations here and here. So we look at compatibility. Will what's proposed here adversely impact any of the surrounding area? And we also have Citrus Road here, which is going to be a gateway to a lot of the future West Goodyear developments that will occur south of the subject property, south of Van Buren, south of Yuma. So what we want to make sure is that any of the development that occurs here on the subject property, such as warehousing that could come with large heights, large bulks, traffic with trucks, light and noise trespass. We want to make sure we mitigate those with any type of rezoning request. So we looked at 2 examples within the city. I know the council is familiar with PV03, adjacent to Charles Boulevard and Phase 5 of Palm Valley. That was a major area where you had light industrial adjacent to single family. Also Compass Data Centers just north of Yuma by Bullard, where you have the Bullard Wash and the Centera community right next to future light industrial development. So staff looked to those 2 examples to try to mitigate any kind of compatibility issues here. And we'll look at PV 303 first. Again, Charles Boulevard, Camelback. Again, a large piece of industrial property, but it had to be so because of Luke Air Force Base. So with existing residential here, the developer, the city, the residents, what resulted was a 300-foot buffer from Charles Boulevard. And within that buffer, heights were limited to a maximum of 40 feet. Uses were also limited. You couldn't have warehousing and distribution. It was more lower intensity office type use. And the next example is Compass Data Centers. And this exhibit just shows how we had the Compass Data Centers here, about 30 feet of building height, but you had a large wash and open space area before you had single family residential. So again, industrial and single family can be compatible if properly buffered. And looking at a couple more criteria, 4 and 5, just want to make the council aware we will make sure Luke Air Force Base and the Phoenix Goodyear Airport are addressed. We will ask the developer to provide notice to those airports. And 5, the demand, again, just bringing up the market study again, just wanted to look at, here is the amount of land we have available, industrial land we have available right now. So at this point, we have enough land to satisfy our demand, and also we're not aware of any specific user for this property. So the city is not missing out either in terms of industrial demand or any specific users with this project. Services and fiscal impacts we will address through, if any development does occur, we will address through our applicable development standards and require infrastructure and service improvements as required. 8, general public concerns. To date, we have had 2 letters in support, 1 letter in opposition to the project. 9 and 10, again, we will require the development to adhere to all city standards should it occur. And then number 10, a couple factors I would just want to bring up. The building height, the deviation up to 150 feet. Staff is supportive of the higher heights adjacent to I-10 for those uses encouraged by the general plan, such as office entertainment. Light industrial, we would recommend stay at about 70 feet until you get to about 300 feet from that south property line that's shared with existing residential. Then we're limiting heights to the standard I-1 zoning of 50 feet. And then for the freeway buffer, we would recommend that that stays as is in the zoning ordinance to 30 feet. Again, just to provide additional buffer and aesthetics from the freeway. Planning and Zoning Commission originally heard this item September 16th, was continued so the applicant and staff could work on potential stipulations and reach agreements. It was continued again on November 4th, again, so give staff and the applicant additional time. And we were able to come up with a set of stipulations with an alternative recommendation should council wish to go that route. We did come up with several stipulations to address compatibility and development. However, the commission did recommend and follow the staff recommendation, and that was for denial. It was a 5-1 vote. So at this time, staff and the commission, our recommendation is for denial of the request as for the reasons stated in the staff report. Should council wish to take another action, we have provided draft stipulations in the ordinance 2020-1472. There is a list of stipulations in that ordinance that we hope addressed compatibility and other development controls for this property. And just a few of them, just wanted to go over. Again, address this a little bit, but 150 feet of height for certain uses only, then 70 feet for other parts of the property. The main part is within 300 feet of the south property line. We would like heights to stay no more than 50 feet. And again, that is for the protection of the existing residential to the south. Dock doors, storage and loading areas, should this property develop with cross-dock warehousing, we would like the developer to provide 100-foot wide buffer north of the RID canal. And that buffer would include a double row of trees and an 8-foot wall. Also, next to stipulations 29 and 30 address sound. We would like between the hours of 10 and 6 a.m. outdoor activities to be limited, and that would be in Area A, 300 feet, again, because that's the area most directly adjacent to the residential. So a reduction of nighttime activity in Area A of 300 feet. Area B, since it's a little further away, that would go down to 220 feet for that development control, limiting the nighttime activities. Next few steps concur screening. Just want to make sure activities and land uses are screened appropriately. Maintenance of the landscape buffer and landscape setbacks along Citrus Road and any other public streets. The last stipulation 36, again, that'll address the special use permit, the borrow pit, and remediation and activities will hopefully be addressed at a later time. And the last step, requirement for vertical construction within 2 years. That's a standard zoning ordinance requirement for all rezonings, but again, we just reiterated it within the rezoning ordinance. Notice, all notice was done because this is a public hearing. Staff did conduct all required notice, reached out to the neighborhoods and sent out mailings and posted the property. Again, we received 2 letters in support and 1 letter in opposition. And with that, Mayor, just to summarize, staff and the commission, we are recommending denial of request for the reasons as stated in the staff report. However, if you do choose to take another action, we would respectfully request that you do so and adopt the stipulations in Ordinance 2020-1472. With that, Mayor, that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Wendy Rydell here? Mm-hmm. I think she wanted to speak.
Thank you. If I could ask staff to kindly pull up my presentation. I'm happy to drive, or if you're driving. Thank you. Can I get your help putting it into presentation mode? Wonderful. Thank you. For the record, my name is Wendy Riddell with the law firm Barry Riddell, 6750 East Camelback. It's my pleasure to be here today on behalf of Innovation Center. Oh, there we go. So my clients are with me here today. If you know office, if you talk about office at all in the Valley, you're bound to hear the name Jim Fionn. If you're talking about industrial, you're bound to hear the name John Worsler. Local, seasoned developers. They're well capitalized with money out of New York with Keystone Equities. And of course, they've got Butler Design Group that you guys should be very familiar with, done some 30 projects in the city of Goodyear. So very capable design team as well. So I wanted to let you know that we're really happy to finally be here after some 2 years of working on this project. I think you all probably remember when we were meeting the first go round and no one could imagine that I'd be coming back wearing a mask. So it's been a long time, and we really are grateful for the amount of time that staff has spent with us working on this project and working to try to find a win-win. I can tell you we are in agreement with all of the stipulations that staff has proposed here. So we really are kind of down to just one area of disagreement. And after we worked out the stipulations, I actually asked Christopher to explain to me what it would take to get staff support of the project. And where we ended up is staff wanted a retail, office, high wage, employment, or entertainment use, the mixed uses you heard, but that it would not include any cross-dock or any logistics. It would be a destination employment center with high wage jobs. So I will tell you what we're proposing is a mix of uses. You heard staff talk about the mix of uses. In fact, the only use we're not including here is residential. We don't believe residential is appropriate here. But you see District B, you've got commercial, retail, entertainment, 26 acres. You've got District C, office, employment, 59 acres. All of this based on the C2. This is your destination high wage employment. And you've got District A, you've got the Commerce Park that does permit light industrial, office, entertainment, retail. So all of the C2 uses are permitted here, but it does allow cross-docks, logistics, internet fulfillment. However, I wanted to point out to you that we did agree to restrict the size of the buildings that would be within that first 300 feet and to prohibit cross-docks logistics or large internet fulfillment from being seen along that frontage road. We also committed to enhanced design standards to make sure that it was a quality development that you see from the freeway throughout the entire, to set the stage. We provided examples. This is, again, all three of these done by Butler Design Group. You've got the Baker development. Just to be clear, to set the record straight, Christopher wanted me to make sure you knew this is no relationship to your lovely development services director. It just happens to be called Baker Development. And then Gilbert Crossroads, again, as an example. So this is what you end up with. This is a conceptual plan. This is a mixed-use plan. We've created these 3 districts for this site. So where's the disagreement? And essentially, if you break it down, the disagreement is about the hole in the donut. You can see District A, District B, the 300-foot strip, the 300-foot area. You can see the landscaping in the back. It's 100 feet of landscaping. We've agreed with the 300-foot and 220 setback, and you're down to the middle. This is our area of disagreement with staff. So why are cross-docks, logistics, and internet facilities necessary here? And I'm going to give you 3 reasons. The first is the cost of infrastructure necessary to make the city's vision even possible. The second, which I suspect this council knows very well, is that e-commerce is the future and growing by the day. And the last is that this is the right solution given the property constraints to achieve the city's vision. So infrastructure. You all know this. This is what Citrus Road looks like today. This is courtesy of Google Maps. It is extraordinarily rural. It's going to require a significant infrastructure commitment to develop this site. There's also a significant amount of infrastructure required in terms of water and sewer. So we're looking at over $10 million of upfront infrastructure costs to be able to develop this site. We also know, because the city conducted its own market analysis, that the city recognizes there's a huge upfront infrastructure cost to develop this site. And that market analysis concluded that non-industrial uses would actually need a subsidy. And for this site to be developed, industrial is the only logical choice. That is the only thing that can be developed here without a subsidy. Again, this was the city staff's own market study. This was not done by us. So really, the light industrial is necessary to pay the $10 million in infrastructure costs to provide the opportunity for the retail, entertainment, and office uses to develop. So why not more office and why not more retail? And I suspect the answer is also pretty obvious to this council. And the world looks a lot different than it did in 2018 when I started this case, which is that office is changing. Companies are now right-sizing and reassessing what the workplace will look like. And brick and mortar stores are giving way to e-commerce. Certainly if my front door is any indication with the number of boxes sitting there when I go home. And e-commerce, by the way, you can see across the nation is seeing a tremendous increase. And when you apply that here locally, and again, I guess this would be our other area of disagreement with the city staff. So the city staff's market analysis, you heard it referenced tonight, was to tell you that by 2030, there'll be an absorption of 228.6 acres. That's 22.8 acres a year. When in fact, you look at 2019, there were 885 acres absorbed. And in 2020, so far, 819. So we know there's a huge need for industrial. And even if you don't take our word for it, this came out in the Business Journal back in November. It talks about Goodyear is expected to grow by more than 200%. Needs 6.5 to 7 million square feet of new space per year for the next 5 years to keep up with demand. This is in the Business Journal. We took it a step further. We looked around the valley and we looked at folks that do a lot of work with dirt, that know the West Valley in and out, and we asked Nate Nathan to give us his opinion. I shared it with you this morning. You've got a copy on all of your desks. And Nate, just providing his opinion to us, made it very clear that industrial is the only logical choice here. The demand for industrial is and will continue to be very strong for the foreseeable future. And again, it's that industrial, that e-commerce that pays the upfront infrastructure costs to provide the opportunity for the city's vision to develop, for retail, entertainment, for those office uses. It's the hole in the donut that makes the rest of the donut possible. We also know it's a very good economic decision for Goodyear. We had an economic analysis done. This is $7.3 million in tax revenue this will provide to the city of Goodyear, not to mention the one-time construction-related revenue. We also know that this site has sat and been marketed for 5 years, and the only interest expressed has been from industrial users. We know that we've been in touch with your economic development director, and in 2 years, there has not been any user brought to develop that wants this site. And that's because I'm going to tell you what I suspect this council also knows, which this is an extraordinary, challenging site to develop. It does not have good access. It's difficult to get to this site. It's south of a prison. It's got a mobile home RV park to the south, and it's got a large borrow pit that does need to be filled. It's next to a county island. This is a challenging site to develop. So again, we have worked for the last 2 years, and I'm hoping that you'll agree, to find the win-win for this site, to be able to develop this site with the type of mix of uses that staff has suggested that is the vision for this site. We have agreed to all of the stipulations, some 30 stipulations, to mitigate any possible concerns. So with that, I would respectfully ask for your approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Is there any speaker cards?
Yes, Mayor. Jeff Levy.
Good afternoon, Council Mayor. Jeff Levy, Goodyear. I'm in 100% supportive of this development. I come from a family on the East Coast of a large industrial and commercial development family, about 52 years. Some of my relatives are up here in Scottsdale. They came down to do some business, and they said they wanted to take a ride over to this site. And we looked at it. We've visited quite a few times, even when the stadium was about to come down. And we saw that this was probably the best, thing for this site is the warehouse, the Logics Center to put in. The commercial sounds good, but we all know today, when will the commercial come back? Just get off the subject a minute. We have just one building left in the East Coast, the Home Depot, and we just gave them a 35% decrease in rent because of just the way that area is and the business, just to keep them there, and lucky to sign an 8-year lease. Just lost my track for a minute. But I brought a very good friend of mine, personal friend that's on the economic department in the East Valley City to look at this. And they totally agree with me. They said, Jeff, what else would be better for this? The Logic buildings. I mean, Wendy brought up too, and I just read it last week in the Phoenix Business Journal, that 86% of the Logic buildings were absorbed this year. There's only less than 20% now in the West Valley available. And like Wendy said too, I read that on the journal, there's millions of square feet that are going to be companies looking for. I think we have to smarten up in Goodyear. There's large competition now coming from Glendale. They just bought loads of property on Route 130 is back home, 303. And, I'd rather see it come here. We have some property in Gilbert. I mean, they're all pushing for it. I think we really have to change our attitudes towards the Logics. I know people put in the paper about the warehouses and the trucks. I want to respond to that. I mean, they have to worry more about the apartments coming into Goodyear than warehousing. If you ride around the buildings, truck traffic is like nothing. Go by Amazon, there's no truck lines, no traffic at all. So I just hope, Mayor, I know every several months you put in the paper that we're looking for employment for the city, for the people, to bring in these buildings. And I just hope you guys do the right thing tonight. And I hope it goes through. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I also have a list of like 25 residents. Do I give that to the clerk that have signed that they're in favor of this project?
Yes, just go ahead and hand them in over there. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have one more speaker, Mayor.
Yeah.
Do you want me to go ahead and call
Okay, you
the
have
next one?
another speaker?
Greg Lane.
I couldn't hear that. Oh, only if it's necessary. Is there any other?
No, Mayor.
Okay. Well, I'm going to close the public hearing. We're doing this a little bit different tonight. We're going to discuss both of them. And then we're going to either, it'll appear deny it, or you'll make a motion to go through with it. So it's kind of, we've never done this before. So we're going to just speak about whether you want it, don't want it, however you feel. So who would like to be the first? Sherry?
Okay. This is definitely a challenging site. And I know that we've had talks about this over the last couple years, going over this and everything. And I've kind of been thinking a lot about it. And I would love to see, I think we all would love to see more retail, more businesses, more office space. But I think for this space, it's got the space in there for it to grow there. I actually drove this site a couple times, and getting it from the freeway is challenging, to put it nicely. Putting the 303 in there as the 303 expands, I think you're going to have more access problems, which is also a concern. My understanding, if I'm right, is there's going to be a truck traffic route, so it'll stay away from the neighborhoods. Is that in the stipulations, or is that something that we look at?
Mayor, if I may, Councilwoman, it's not in the stipulations, but the access points is exactly as we've described. Is to come in off the ADOT frontage road, access the site, go back out on the frontage road and back on the freeway. So there will be no truck traffic in any type of residential community.
And I think that's always been one of our citizens' issues here. When I look at the whole community here coming down from Estrella, you can get to it kind of the back way. But if I'm coming from either north of the freeway or from other parts of Goodyear, it's going to be difficult to get there. We also do have a lot of office area and retail area right there that hasn't been built up by that Target. There was supposed to be a Home Depot in there several years ago. And I think during the first recession that went away. So there's lots of pads there that are probably honestly going to have to build out before this would build out, would be my thought here. It's not a pretty parcel now. And since you're here, my understanding is you are going to do the outline.
Yes.
That's
in the stipulations.
That it's going to be outlined, so it will look better. It is a difficult piece. I don't, we all want to see retail. We all want to see entertainment. But I like the fact that this is here. And honestly, when you come down the 303, we have a lot of that industrial, and it looks pretty nice. You look at it, you see the Mercedes, you see the Boeing, you see Dick's Sporting Goods, you see glass front office spaces. So I think you could make this look very nice. I know staff's worked really hard on this, and they have the best interests at heart. And I do like all the stipulations staff put in. And I think we can make this a win-win. And I just think we all have to be patient and not expect the two other parcels to develop right away, to put it kindly, because I think it will come. So I do support it. That was a change of heart from the first time this came through, and I think there's been substantial improvements that staff and the applicant have worked on to make this a doable project. So I would support it.
Very good. Go ahead. Laura?
From my association with the Three Rivers Historical Society, I know a number of people who lived here when the Trotter Track was built. And it was iconic, and there was a lot of hopes and dreams that came with it, but it didn't last. People couldn't get there, and you know, there was a lot of grieving when the building came down. So what was originally iconic then became a curiosity, then became an eyesore, then became a danger. And truthfully, I was relieved when they tore it down. And so it felt like it was a monument to this huge failure. And so, as stated, this discussion didn't just come up. I mean, it's been in the works for a while, so we've had a long time to consider it. And like Councilmember Loretano, I also drove the roads, the freeways, parked, walked the land, you know, just really went to go see how you could get around, and it is difficult. And honestly, I think it's time for this land to be productive. It's languished decades. And this particular topic has been in the West Valley View. It's been online. So there's been a lot of opportunity for people who had a particular feeling one way or another to comment on it. And other than commenting online, we really heard relatively little from the public about it. And it seems that we are welcoming internet fulfillment in a lot of places, including in our new technology corridor. So I'm not sure why that should necessarily be excluded here. We've also given a lot of our I-10 corridor to residential. And so, you know, and the Loop 303 South is definitely flanked. I do have a couple of questions. What is the vision for Citrus Road? What kind of road will that develop into?
Mayor, council members, portion of Citrus Road south of I-10 or?
Correct.
Okay. Well, I'll start further south. As Citrus Road goes further south, especially past Van Buren down to Yuma, you're generally into single family, medium density type residential. So the thought was more of a theme of along that residential back to agricultural roots in terms of maybe landscaping, hardscaping. So definitely south of Yuma, south of Van Buren, you would start to see that transition to more of a, you know, post and rail fencing, other type of agricultural theming.
Will it remain a 2-lane road, or will it be expanded, especially this section between going north of Van Buren up to the frontage?
Mayor, council members, as development occurs, any development's required to do its half street. So eventually when that area develops, you will have either arterial or major arterial street sections through there.
Okay. Then I also wanted to ask about the vision for the borrow pit. There's no commitment from the staff presentation. What is the vision for the borrow pit?
Thank you, Mayor Lord, Councilmember Kina. So we did agree through this on a stipulation that my clients will be processing a special use permit to establish the legal framework so that that pit can be filled. That unfortunately has been an impediment. We've had dirt guys that want to go fill it, and much to our amazement, that wasn't possible. So the idea is we are committed to processing that special use permit to establish the framework so it can be filled over time.
Okay. I also wanted to thank staff and everybody for working so hard to come up with it, but I just want to reiterate, I think it's time for this land to be productive.
Next. Joe?
No, I don't have much more to add except that I agree that it's a difficult piece of property to get to. And I appreciate staff working with the developer to come up with all the different stipulations to create this, in my view, a win-win situation. I believe that'll help jumpstart, hopefully, some of the other commercial in the area. But I still think that's going to be a challenge long-term because of the changing economy and how things are going on right now. And like Wendy, I think with the new digital sales, I'm seeing those boxes in front of my place on a regular basis too. So I understand the mechanics of how that's working. But again, I agree with the fellow council members that I believe this is a win-win, and hopefully that'll get something going on there and it will generate a tax base for us.
Brandon?
Yeah, a lot of the same things. I was originally 2 years ago against it, but then looking at it and the different stipulations that have been presented throughout the years and working with staff and the applicant as well, I think the mixed use is good. I actually live really close to this area, and it is very difficult to get on and off the freeway around that area. So, I mean, really the only way to get off it is to go to Citrus or that future diamond that'll be near off of Yuma. So yeah, I was curious about the in and out. So having it come off the freeway and then go back onto the freeway, I think is good. But yeah, I think it is a positive for that area, especially having the frontage road be the office and commercial type space, as opposed how it is zoned now being more trailer park type usage. So I'm for this. I think for that those particular uses and that particular area. So thank you.
Bill?
I've been wrestling with this presentation literally spread out on my island all day. The project itself is, as everybody has said, it's kind of obvious. The only thing that belongs on this site is industrial. So once you accept that, then you have to start looking at why are we even having this 30 or 40 minute presentation on this subject. In the beginning of the presentation that was done by Steve and the staff collective, it starts out that we're opposed to this and that we run through this whole gamut of here's all the reasons why we're against it. But if you, by the way, decide to go your own way, then here are the 33 stipulations that we've come to. And it seems like we should have been able to get to a yes answer with the 33 stipulations and maybe argued about why or why not this particular property. But a couple of the things that are kind of disturbing from a procedural perspective. We talk about this piece of property and being inconsistent with the general plan, but in none of the stipulations do we require a general plan amendment. So if it's inconsistent, then why are we not requiring a general plan amendment? Because I don't believe because it requires one. So I don't know if you want to take these one at a time or collectively, but no, go right ahead. I can stop. That's good.
Council can approve zoning that is not in conformance with the general plan.
Yeah.
It is your discretion.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comment?
He has
more. He's not done.
I'm certainly not done.
Well, I may make a comment or two. Just the way you did, Vice Mayor. I thought about this, discussed it this morning, and reviewed. And, it was a little sorrow there. We wanted something spectacular on that hill or mountain, whatever you want to call it. But to be realistic, reading it over today, and I'll have to say it was a very good presentation made on what the intent is. It made a difference to me tonight. I think maybe this is a step we need to take. I think this is our next project to see finished. It's visionary. It has lots of aspects we never thought about. So I think it's the right thing to do. I know that they talked about, I think there was a complaint about the height and the view. I think that was presented. And I always try to remind people, and they won't like me for it, but you can't buy a view. Okay, so whatever your view is from your home, that's your view. So that would not change my direction. I'm just impressed of how far you've developed this and what the foresight is. So, yeah, I'm for this. Any other comment? Yes.
Can I finish?
Yes, you may.
Okay. I've probably got
You probably worked on
minutes.
this for days to
Well,
get this.
see, this is the problem. When I don't work, this is all I have to do, right?
Well, go get a job.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So everybody wants me to go get a job, so I've got less time to spend.
Holy cow.
But I think I'll leave all the rest of the details out, but the main part is we've been pushing from the beginning on this about the demand for the permitted use, that this is not, that industrial isn't needed, and industrial isn't, that we already have enough industrial. And in the presentation, the table from the study that was done was brought up, but yet we have heard from multiple people. We heard from Chris Camacho about 8 weeks or 12 weeks ago about industrial leads to office. We have a letter sitting here tonight from Nate Nathan, who we very much respect, who talked about this particular site being completely undevelopable, but for industrial. And then if you go back to the presentation on the subject that we had earlier tonight, it talks about all the reasons why industrial works in this city. And none of those reasons applied to this particular piece of property. And I find that very disturbing. And I think I'm going to close with that. There's 33 stipulations that have worked out very well that protect us as a city, that allows this piece of property to develop in the right way. And for every internet fulfillment center, there's dollars associated with that for revenue from us, for the taxpayer to get. And I think it's important for our residents to understand that as well. I like to say every click of the mouse is a brick coming out of a brick and mortar store, but that's the future. And that's what we have to be focused on, is what's going to do well for us in the future. So I'm appreciative of everyone's comments tonight. And I did a really good job of not blowing my top, keeping my stuff together. So
you did.
Thank you.
I'll compliment you on that. Okay. Any other? Councilman.
I've just been waiting my turn.
Oh, I know.
You skipped right over
weren't
me.
going to say
no,
something.
that's okay. Well, I'd like to thank Wendy for meeting with me and explaining this program, this layout. It's different than what we saw a couple of years ago, but it's very well thought out. And I have always thought that we would be very lucky if anyone would want to come with the water park, because there's no infrastructure there. I understand how the mobile park is laid out. I know it's very difficult to even get to that. But on the other hand, I don't see us putting houses in there. I don't see us doing anything else to this. This is just really an abandoned piece of property that has been neglected for so long. And why else would they have put a trotter track out there if they didn't think it could go anyplace else? I mean, we're talking a long time ago. I'm not comfortable with us putting 30 or 39 stipulations on a piece of property when we want to develop something. And I understand why you did it. And I'm not asking you to take it away, but I really, I think that the developer in good faith is trying to give us a product that we will be proud of, that will bring revenue to our city. And while I appreciate our general plan, when we make the general plan, plans change. The economy changes, everything changes. And we just sometimes have to change our mind of what we think. Something goes somewhere, we put it someplace else. And that's our prerogative to do that. And as I explained to Wendy, I have no issue whatsoever with the dock doors facing I-10, because who's going to see them when you're driving 75 miles an hour on I-10? You're not going to see the dock doors. You're not even really going to see the building. But then on the other hand, I don't have a problem with an internet fulfillment building or a warehouse being put there, because that's money for Goodyear. That's bringing in revenue for us. So I'm in favor of this. I wish that we could have a long time ago done something differently, but then I'd like to have infrastructure all through our city, which we do not have. And that's why we can't develop certain areas. So thank you very much for meeting with us one-on-one and explaining your program and what you want to do. And we wish you good luck with it.
Thank you.
So I think council has matured, and we all were able to come together. And, when it was denied at one level. And so I definitely have a strong consensus. So I'm going to read the resolution, please.
Adopt resolution number 2020-2073, declaring as public records those certain documents filed with the city clerk titled Official Supplementary Zoning Map number 19-11A, Innovation Center Legal Description, Innovation Center Pad Overlay, Enhanced Design Examples in Areas with Operational Limitations.
Thank you. Can I have a motion, a second, to approve resolution number 2020-273? Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion from Vice Mayor Stiff and a second from Councilman Campbell. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Stiff?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Hampton?
Aye.
Councilmember Kano?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
The motion carries.
All right. Very good.
Mayor, thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
One more I have to do.
Oh,
So
that's right.
The 21, the next one down.
Adopt ordinance number 2020-1472, conditionally rezoning approximately 224 acres from planned area development pad and AG agricultural to planned area development pad for a new development to be known as the Innovation Center Planned Area Development, amending the zoning map of the city of Goodyear, providing for non-abridgment, providing for corrections, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, and providing for penalties.
All right, can I have a motion and second to approve ordinance number 2020-1472? Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
Oh, I'll second.
I heard a motion from Councilman Kano and a second from Vice Mayor Stipp. I think we've had all the discussion we need. Is that so? Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Stipp?
Aye.
Councilmember Hampton?
Aye.
Councilmember Kano?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye. That was different.
Sorry. I think we need a break. I'm sorry.
And thank you very much. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
all the information and the presentation, and we look forward to the accomplishment.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. We really appreciate it.
All right. So now we're on item 12. All right. First item of business, to consider approving the 2021 spring training ticket prices. Ballpark manager, and I'm going to give him a moment, Bruce Kessman will present. So we'll take a moment to somehow your microphone's not working very well, so
Here we go.
All right.
that's it.
My apologies. All right. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for your time this evening to present the 2021 spring training ticket pricing. And this evening, we'll be discussing the 2021 spring training and what we currently know at this time, bringing forth the parking and ticket fees, provide you with the staff and fiscal analysis, and also bring forth staff's recommendation for pricing. I know it's a big question for a lot of us is what does spring training 2021 look like? And, the Cactus League has been taking a very proactive approach with the executive director and the Cactus League president reaching out to working closely with county and state health officials and also Major League Baseball to figure out what is going to look like and if we can reopen with fans. However, at this time, there's still not a set direction. We're still waiting for more information to come forth. And I do plan to come back in late January, early February, and provide council with a more comprehensive update as information becomes available and as a clear direction is more defined. However, some of the themes that we have been experiencing are opening at a reduced capacity. Even though we don't have a full plan, we are still trying to do the best we can and prepare for the season. But opening up at a reduced capacity seems to be in our future. For us here in Goodyear, fully socially distanced crowd, we're looking at about 20 to 25% capacity. The impact of a reduced capacity has been communicated through finance and has been included in the FY21 projections. Also, enhancing our safety protocols and cleaning protocols, more thorough disinfecting, hand sanitizers, installing those. We've already started that process, and just the frequency of our cleanings as well. Again, we're hoping to get a little bit more clear definition as we get closer to the season. And finally, minimizing touch points, looking to try to move more towards touchless pay systems, mobile ticket delivery, and that's also why I am here this evening, is to discuss our parking and ticketing fees. And each year with the Indians and the Reds, staff, we really evaluate our entire operation. We look for best practices, we look for other efficiencies that can be implemented, and we also evaluate our ticket pricing. This year, we really centered a lot of our discussions around safety, fan safety, also safety of our staff, but we also wanted to make sure that we remained competitively priced and maintained our revenues. And really, this really kind of started with our first interaction that we have with our fans on game day, which is parking. And parking, since 2009, we've charged $5 for parking per car, and has been a source of revenue for the ballpark. However, parking for us is primarily a cash transaction, which is considered a high-risk touch point. Thus, the reason to try to remove that touch point and add that price into the cost of a ticket. Several advantages of removing that, obviously removing that touch point for the safety of our fans and also our staff. But we also looked beyond that and looked at the sustainability of removing this fee. That there's all the future advantages as well of being able to park cars quicker, moving them into our parking lots, and especially as the city starts to grow, we can alleviate some of that traffic off of Estrella and Bullard. We did, staff did research and look into other options. We did look into including a prepaid ticket when fans purchase on the Ticketmaster system. However, that parking fee would actually be charged very similar to a ticket where you would be hit with those surcharges, which would dramatically increase the cost of a parking ticket. We also looked at other prepaid parking options, but then that would now have to require a separate transaction, which you would have to finish one transaction, go to another site, and then make another purchase. There's also a lot of discrepancy on some of those systems as well, whether people would actually, or fans would actually go and do that. And if they did not pre-purchase, then we'd be right back in the situation where we'd have to come up with a mechanism to charge when they came on site. Now, with this proposal of moving the parking fees and build them into the ticket price, this will increase our revenues slightly over the course of one season. So the numbers that we used were the last 3 full seasons, so 2017, 18, and 19. Approximately $56,000 more would be generated under this model. When you break that down over the course of 30 games, it's a little bit less than $2,000 per game. So it's not, and the primary intention was not to increase revenues, but just to maintain that revenue stream. So now looking at the ticket side, with increasing the cost of tickets, the last price increase that we experienced here in Goodyear was in 2017. Prior to that, there was the $1 day of game charge in 2016. And that was over all the seating sections except for the berm. The berm seating section was the only one that the base ticket price has not changed until the proposal from this year. And again, one of our primary goals was to maintain our competitive pricing advantage amongst other facilities in the Cactus League. And this will be demonstrated as we go through these next slides and look at our pricing comparison versus the other facilities. On the bottom left in the box, there are the 2 bar graphs that show Goodyear's pricing. I do want to note that we still are the only facility that offers child price tickets, which helps us really maintain our competitive advantage. I'd also like to note that Hohokam, where the A's do play, they give us the base price, but they do practice full dynamic pricing, so their pricing will increase or can increase substantially over that $11 base fee. And once again, looking at our outfield seating section, that this, we still maintain our competitive advantage, especially with that child price ticketing. So the outfield seating area is one more area that we offer the child price ticket. And then our most popular seating, which is our infield box or infield seating, that we once again still hold with our competitive advantage with maintaining in the lower tiers versus all the other facilities. So through this analysis, that staff felt that we can still maintain our competitive pricing advantage in all of our seating areas. And the chart that you see in front of you now is our proposed pricing for the 2021 season. Our plan is currently still to implement a lot of our popular ticket promotions. That would include the military discounts, senior discounts, and also continue with that child pricing, which would further enhance our competitive advantage. Both the Indians and Reds are in full support of the pricing structure for 2021, and staff recommends that council approve the 2021 spring training ticket prices. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are they speaker cards? Okay, would anybody in the audience like to speak? I think our audience left already. So can I have a motion a second?
Yeah, Walt's here. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. Can I have a motion a second to approve the 2021 spring training ticket prices? Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion by Councilman Campbell and a second by Councilman Pizzillo. Open for council discussion. Councilman Loretano?
I have a question. I think this is a really good plan since we don't really know how many fans. I'm sure, hopefully it'll get better. Have there been any talks for Major League Baseball? Because I know different sports have altered their season. Is spring training still looking like it's going to go in March? Or have there been any talks on moving that or their season, or what's going on?
As it currently stands today, that spring training is still being planned to start as scheduled the 27th of February and run through March 27th. I know there's been other talks that there's always the possibilities that it may be moved, but at this time, there's nothing to find that spring training will move.
And then the other questions are, is this going to be, not that we're competing against Florida, but from people coming out of state, is this similar to what, or do we know what Florida's doing, the Grapefruit League, or they're just letting everybody in because it's Florida?
Actually, we've had some conversations with some of the facilities out there as well, and everybody is in the same holding pattern as we are out here. So no one's at this point has been able to release tickets as we don't have a clear defined plan moving forward.
Thank you. Councilman Campbell?
I think our ticket prices are very good, only because I have been a season ticket holder for quite a while. But my concern is I don't know how we're going to be able to manage our crowds if, in fact, we still have the COVID limitations in March, which would mean that we have had these limitations a whole year, and wearing masks in that hot sun. We better have a lot of paramedics stand by because people are going to overheat in that stadium. But how are we going to handle, you're going to sell tickets to the season ticket holders, I'm assuming. Are you, or are you not? Or you don't know?
At this point, we have some ideas on how we would move forward with the sale of tickets, but with having a reduced crowd and having to be socially distanced, offering full season tickets may not be the best approach, as the current season ticket holders would not be able to sit in their normal seats that they would have to be moved. So trying to understand who would have priority becomes a little bit of a challenge. So our plan would be to allow season ticket holders to have a pre-sale to purchase first, and if they decide that coming out to spring training, they would rather not for their own personal safety, that we would hold their seats until 2022.
Yeah, well, then you would have people walking up to buy, because a lot of people buy day of, because they go from park to park to park, and they don't really know which park they're going to be at tomorrow. And then if we're limited, it's going to be a really difficult for our staff to be able. I mean, you're going to be turning people away, saying, we're full, we can't take anyone else. And then if you buy 2 seats, you're going to want to sit with whoever you came with, and you're going to have that to deal with as well. But I just hope it's over by March. I hope. But thank you. I know you're doing a lot of planning, and the unknown is just really very concerning.
Councilman Bazell?
Yeah, I agree with the ticket pricing. I personally think your biggest challenge is going to be concourse traffic.
Yeah.
Because if everything plays out, at least what you hear on the news, and I'm not sure how much I buy anyway, but is that come February and March, you're still going to have some issues. You're not going to have enough vaccines out there that have been processed. So the concourse traffic, I think, is going to be your biggest challenge.
Councilman Hampton?
No, also same things. I appreciate all the hard work. I know there's a lot of unknowns to plan for here, so I know you're doing everybody's doing the best they can with projections and everything like that. So thank you for all the what if scenarios and trying to plan as best as you can. So I'm looking forward to us getting back to normal, because spring training is really important to the city of Goodyear, and I miss it personally. So it'll be, yeah. Hopefully we'll get there. We'll get back here soon. So thank you for what you're doing.
Well, the one thing you can depend on is people want baseball back. Okay, so that's the first thing I have to think about. And I thought you did a super job on the pricing. We always have to change. I mean, this is not a giveaway, and we need to keep the stadium and everything looking pristine like you do. I guess I have one question. Do I throw all my Indian hats away?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I did.
My shirt.
I did. I heard it, which is, I have nothing against that. But I heard on national TV that they are changing their name. And I think that's respectful and brave of them. So, so it'll be interesting. We need to check. I'm sure that people want to buy some, and so just be keeping that in your radar. So I guess nobody else heard the news today, huh? Did you hear it? Yeah. And I think that was a brave row for them to take and necessary. So I support them. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Are there any speaker cards? Would anybody in the audience like to speak? All right. Can I have a motion a second to approve the 2021 spring training ticket prices? Do I hear that motion?
I moved it, Mayor.
All right, I heard a motion from Councilman Campbell. Second? Second from Vice Mayor Stiff. Open for council discussion. I think we've had enough. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right, the next business item is number 13, to consider approving the Southwest Family Advocacy Center intergovernmental agreement. Hello, Chief. Chief Police Santiago Rodriguez will present.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So tonight I would be presenting on the PD update on the Southwest Valley Advocacy Center, and also provide details on the intergovernmental agreement that we're asking you to approve tonight. Let me get this to work. Perfect. So the Advocacy Center is made up of a multi-law enforcement agencies that work together to provide professional investigative services to the victims of domestic violence, child abuse, sexual assault, and elder abuse cases. The agencies represented at the center are Avondale PD, Buckeye PD, Goodyear PD, the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, and also the Department of Child Safety. You can see there's our additional services provided at the center, which are forensic interviews, trauma therapy, victim services with an advocate, and any medical help that may be needed. I added an illustration there at the bottom right that shows what it's like and how important and beneficial it is for our victims to have access to an advocacy center. On the left there is without an advocacy center. As you can see, there's the runaround. The victim many times is re-victimized many places as they go and seek other resources. The diagram on the left there, you can see where all the additional resources are working together, and they've already been alerted of the case, and they're working more for the victim in a time of crisis and not re-victimized. So a little update on Goodyear PD and what our staffing is at the Advocacy Center. We definitely provide the best services possible to our victims. And this is 1 detective sergeant, 4 detectives, and a victim advocate that is at the Advocacy Center. Each of them have a very important role independently and also working as a team when dealing with the trauma of the victims and providing the best resources possible to them, as you saw in the previous slide. So moving forward before you tonight is the renewal of the intergovernmental agreement to provide professional integrated services to our victims, whether it be a child, an adult, or a family that is in need. We would continue to work together and share the use of the center with the other departments that are there. And this will also include the Department of Child Services, as they are unique and they also provide quite a benefit to our detectives throughout their investigation. This agreement would extend the current term of agreement until June 30th of 2023. And all I can add is this is truly a one-stop place for our victims. And like I say, re-victimizing the victims is what we're trying not to do, and we're trying to heal, and that takes time. That concludes my presentation. Would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Is anybody online? No speaker cards from there? Okay. Nope. Can I have a motion a second to approve the First Amendment to the amended and restated Southwest Family Advocate Center intergovernmental agreement with a partnering agency in the Department of Child Safety? Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion from Vice Mayor Stiff and second from Councilor Pizzillo. Open for council discussion. We all love it. Right, it's such a great facility. Oh,
yeah, no,
Councilman Pizzillo.
That's all I was going to say, Mayor. It's worthwhile, very worthwhile cause. I appreciate all your efforts in taking care of our kids.
Very important to our city and to the families, yes. So very well done. Okay, no more discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much, Chief.
That was easy button.
The next item on business is a comprehensive annual financial report presentation for 2019-2020 from Doug Sandstrom, Finance Manager.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Unfortunately, Jared Askelson, our finance manager, was not able to make it, so you will not be getting a history lesson tonight on where audits came from and how they're related to the pandemic. So we will save that one for next year.
Tell him we're going to come to his office and give him one.
We are here this evening to overview the comprehensive annual financial report for fiscal year 2020. Fiscal year 2020 ended on June 30th. 2020 of this last year. Everything, the numbers that you see and everything about that is a snapshot in time as of that date. What we are here to talk about is an independent audit that was conducted by our auditors, Hinton Burdick. Hinton Burdick is in their second year of conducting the audit for the city. The independent audit is required by state law as well as by the city charter to be conducted on an annual basis. What the city prepares and puts together is a comprehensive annual financial report, or a CAFR, which takes that audit to the next level in the presentation of the financial statements within it, in the transparency of the information that is presented. The CAFR document is presented to the Government Finance Officers Association each year, and since fiscal year 2007 has been awarded the Certificate of Achievement in Financial Reporting from that organization. What the results of that audit are for this fiscal year just can be summed up with these two statements right here. The independent auditors issued what is known as an unmodified or clean opinion. And what that means is that the financial statements presented reflect accurately, fairly, and in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, the finances of the city of Goodyear. In addition, they also look at the internal controls that are in place and noted that there are no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. What that means when they're looking at our internal controls is, do we have systems in place that prevent fraud, theft, or human error from occurring, and that you can, again, rely on the financial statements as presented. And they found no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. One of the things we do with our auditors is really work through this with them to see if there's anything that they even see that is an extremely minor weakness, something we look at this as a chance for improvement, and we get a letter from them each year of items that we can work on and improve on an annual basis, because we always want to make sure that we get better. The two graphs that I will be showing you here are really the two major takeaways when it comes to the annual report once we've passed the fact that there are no material weaknesses and it's a clean opinion. The first is the government-wide net position. What net position is, it's basically what the city's net worth is. And for fiscal year 2020, the city's net worth was $889 million. So just short of $1 billion was our net position. Looking at it over time, you can get an idea of what the financial health of a city is. When you see constant positive growth, that means the city generally has that strong foundation. When you start to see slips or negative growth, that's when it really triggers what do we need to look at here. You can see the last couple of years we had 8.1%, and now this fiscal year an 11.8% increase. All of that is driven through increased sales tax collections, increased charges for service from enterprise funds, permits, development impact fees, the Arizona CARES grant. At the underlying portion of it is just the overall growth in the city. Some of the reasoning behind the increases the last couple years is the economic development successes that the city has had. They are really starting to show through other elements of the city. The next graph is overall fund balance for the all governmental funds. $227 million was basically how much money we had in the bank on June 30th. That is a 22.4% growth from fiscal year 2019's fund balance, about $41.5 million increase. Now, that does not mean we have $227 million to now allocate for additional spending. A big portion of that has already been allocated and put aside. I will go through how that fund balance is allocated. There are actually five when you get to the last, 4 areas how it is spread out. Going in order of the most restricted to the least restricted. Non-spendable are items that are by their very definition you can't spend. They're inventory items. We've already spent the cash. We've now got the value of the asset. Restricted are items that are restricted by entities outside of the city, state law, federal law, issuing bonds, and so on. So it's outside of the control of the city to remove those restrictions. Committed are items that are committed by the city through long-term agreements through the council. The ballpark reserve is listed at it because we have a 10-year agreement with the baseball teams, spelling out that we will have this reserve for that. The final category up here is assigned. That is everything that shows what our intentions as a city were. One of the biggest items in the assigned category is the budget. We have allocated the budget. The council has voted on it and said that's what we're going to do. So that portion of fund balance is an assigned. After assigned, we get to unassigned. Unassigned is that area that is unknown revenue that when we went through the budget process this last year, it's revenue that we have gotten over and above what we had anticipated. For fiscal year 2020, that is $17.5 million. So when we went through the budget process, entering into the pandemic, we again applied our very conservative revenue forecast, very conservative expenditures, and then applied even more conservative to it because of the pandemic. And as we know, the revenues have continued to come in. So $17.5 million will be the starting point of a fund balance for fiscal year 2022. And of course, we'll go through that and make modifications for our revenue projections and so on. So it will actually be the beginning fund balance going into the fiscal year 22 will be greater than that $17.5 million. So we're definitely sitting in a very strong financial position at this time. And with that, I will wrap up by just leaving you with, this is an audit, independent audit. We have an unmodified clean opinion. There are no significant deficiencies or material weakness. Our financial position continues to improve. And I'd like to thank the council, my finance team, and especially the audit committee who we presented this to in a little bit more detail last week for everything we've done on that. And there's no action required by council. It's just presenting it to you. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Thank you very much. I'm sure there's no speaker cards or anybody in line. So can I have a motion and second to receive the 2019-2020 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, the CAFR? Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
Second. I heard a motion from Vice Mayor Stiff and a second from Councilman Basillo. Open for council discussion. Did I get the wrong one? All right, let's go back and review it. That's Brannon. That was very strong and loud for you, Brannon. So,
and he had his hand up.
But you did your job. Thank you. So let me correct that. There was Brannon Hampton did the motion, but Vice Mayor Stiff did the second. And now we're into open discussion. Great job. Since then, I want to give you a little pat on the back and not just them, staff and council. We're all part of this team. Okay, discussion is finished. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you. We're on 15. The final item on business is consider approving a request for the extension of the COVID-related emergency leave and EFMLI. How do you say that? EMLI? Whatever it is. EFMLA. Human Resources Director Lyman Lockett presenting.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight I'm here to recommend the approval and extension of ongoing establishment of an emergency leave provision in response to the scheduled sunset of the Family First Coronavirus Act. The Family First Coronavirus Act, or the FFCRA, was enacted by the federal government on April the 1st, following the start of the pandemic. The Family First Coronavirus Act provides employees with emergency leave and an expansion of FMLA in connection with COVID-related issues. Through the first 7 months of the pandemic, we've had 89 of our employees access this leave. And in recent weeks, we've experienced a minor surge in COVID activity amongst our employees. So we're anticipating that this will continue. Although there is light at the end of the tunnel with the vaccine, we still think this is going to carry into next year beyond the sunset of the federal act. We are asking that you continue the leave with an extension, and we would have a change to policy 600, which is our attendance and leave policy. This would provide ongoing emergency leave when there's a declaration of an emergency by the mayor, and this policy change would grant the city manager the authority to enact that leave based upon the conditions that exist. With that, that closes my presentation. I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Can I have a motion and second to approve the leave provisions of the FFCRA by authorizing the city manager to initiate emergency leave provisions during a local declaration of emergency, if necessary, for the continuing of the city's operation as determined by the city manager? Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion by Councilman Loretano, a second by Councilman Pizzillo. Open for council discussion. All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. That's it. Thank you very much. All right. Anything that you want to comments or reports you want to give, council? Yes. Councilman Campbell.
I would like to acknowledge a donation that I have received from the Valentine Family Foundation in the amount of $5,000 for the Goodyear Fill a Need. This very generous donation was sent to me and said, I appreciate the work you do in the community of Goodyear and wish you continued success. To please find enclosed the check in the amount of $5,000. These funds are intended to be used only for Goodyear Fill a Need program. And I will send her a letter, and I have given the check to our finance director this evening.
You're amazing.
I have a lot of friends.
I guess you do, and people that have money. That's wonderful. That's a great. Joe?
Very grateful.
Also, Shop with the Cops Saturday. Kudos to our council member, Wally Campbell, for putting that together and raising the money through the Pebble Creek area. It was interesting seeing Santa come in on a helicopter, right? Trying to talk him and get me off the naughty list, but I don't know if I was any successful there. But anyway, the kids loved it, and the helicopter came around a couple of times, and Santa was waving. The kids had a great time. So kudos, Wally, helped put that together.
Sherry?
I also want to thank the Arts and Culture Commission. Did a great.
Did
I want to thank the Arts and Culture Commission for the holiday show. It was wonderful. They streamed it, and they had people there live, a very small people because of the requirements, but it was a great job, some local talent, and I learned one of the gentlemen that was singing was one of our former youth commission members. Wally pointed that out, and so they were just excellent. So Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year.
Brandon?
Yeah, I went to the Hanukkah celebration, which was a lot of fun too. They had to do it differently this year, but it was good to celebrate with them. And then I went to a fundraiser at Christ Evangelical Lutheran Church and supported them and bought some lefse, which was kind of fun too. And then I was volunteering with the Alfrea Food Bank. There's a lot of demand out there right now with a lot of people in need. So they're looking for more volunteers. So a lot more demand and less volunteers this year. So
it's wonderful.
So yeah, so that's good.
I'm sorry, Mayor, I did attend the Fill a Need after I finished Shop with a Cop. I ran over to the ballpark, and we have adopted 30 families, and it was absolutely amazing what we were able to do because we had so many corporate sponsors that stepped up and actually adopted a whole family, bought for the whole family, wrapped for the whole family, and we put in the ballpark staff put them on pallets and rolled them out to the curb or close to the curb so that as they drove through and they identified the family, it was just loaded right in. And All Faith Community Services gave us our 30 turkeys because All Faith is the only dedicated Goodyear food bank. I'm telling you, the other food banks do give a little bit to Goodyear, but All Faith is strictly Buckeye and Goodyear, and they continue. It's wonderful what they do. And Sabrina and her entire crew, Sumet, everybody was there helping out, and it was just a wonderful day. Goodyear really has a big heart, and we do take care of our citizens.
That's nice to hear. Bill?
I'm going to say I have nothing to report, which I don't. But I have got a couple of questions. We received an email tonight with a concern about the water rate increase. Can we be, I know we're not hearing that until July 4th, I think. January. Jeez Louise. I just want to push right through. Isn't it December next year yet? But before that meeting, can we collectively get the answer to the question? what is the consequence of us delaying the fee increase for an entire year? I'd rather have the answer to that question going into that rather than that night, just so we understand the implication of that. And then, secondly, I've been debating about how this probably needs to roll out, and I'm thinking it may be a work session, so I'm going to look to my fellow council members to maybe have a work session to discuss what we think we can do or potentially do with these small corner commercial sites that we know aren't going to develop commercially, but we don't know what the other answer is. We know commercial isn't going to go, but we don't know what that is. And these are going to start coming fast and furious. And I don't know that we're prepared. I would hate for staff to be in a position that they think they know what council is thinking going into that, kind of like the Innovation Center, and for it not to be that way. Just trying to unwind that and maybe have a discussion about it. It's kind of strategic, but it's also I don't think we can wait until February 5th. So I'm just throwing that out there. I'll let you guys decide how to make the sausage and then tell us what you think.
What's February 5th?
That's our next retreat.
Oh.
When we're supposed to talk about the strategic plan, but this is an issue that's happening right now. We're going to get inundated. I get phone calls constantly from developers. Hey, what do you think about? Like, I don't have an answer. I have no answer. Like, I have no idea what we would think, how we would. Even myself. I mean, I flat don't have a clue what we're going to do with these tiny little commercial parcels. The world has changed entirely from the moment that this city was zoned back in the early 2000s to today. And I'm pretty sure I know we all don't want multifamily there. So what are we left with? That's all.
All right, you're on, Julie.
Thank you. Just a few items. I did want to give you some information officially about the 2020 Fill in Need. As mentioned, on Saturday, December 12th, we provided holiday presents and food boxes for 30 Goodyear families in need this holiday season through the Fill in Need program. It was a drive-through event to make sure that families and staff members remain safe. We also worked with Santa for seniors and provided presents to 44 senior residents. And I'd like to extend a special thank you to those businesses, community partners, and employees who helped support the program this year. Also a commercial for the Holiday Variety Show, which was also mentioned. It is still available through streaming through December 31st. So just to give a bit of a commercial, it was in partnership with the Ghostlight Theater. The city hosted a holiday variety show on December 12th and 13th. It had 6 acts giving live performances at the Estrella Foothills High School Performing Arts Center. The program was Healthy Verify certified, and we were able to host 120 audience members across 4 separate shows with limited in-person seating available. The performances were packed with holiday fun, including Santa and His Elves, the West Valley Youth Orchestra, Broadway star James Gish, comedian Corey McCloskey, and the Manaya Boys, and others. All the performers shared their appreciation for Goodyear, allowing them to be on stage in a safe environment and allowing them to share their talents with the public. So special thank you to Ghostlight Theater and all of the talented performers, and of course our Parks and Recreation staff who made the program possible. Last but not least, city offices will be closed on Friday, December 25th in observance of Christmas, and will also be closed on Friday, January 1st in observance of New Year's Day. Emergency fire and police services will operate as normal, and city offices will reopen at 8 a.m. the Monday following each holiday. There will be no trash recycling or bulk refuse service on either holiday, and I'd like to wish everyone a wonderful and safe holiday season.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays. Enjoy your family, enjoy the food. I'm going to adjourn this meeting, but the next regular meeting will be January 4th. Can you believe we're going into 2021? Wow. Oh, this meeting is adjourned.